Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us for this segment of the Connection TV show. I am your host, Angela. Now, for this segment, I need you to hold on. I need you to pay attention because you are going to get some very, very good information. And I would say that it's a sensitive segment as well as compassionate. And when we talk about real thoughts, real talk, this is one of those segments. Recently, we have been inundated, for about a year or so with a lot of things that are happening in the African American community with law enforcement. And so we graciously asked our Chief Protector, Chief Mike YANKOWSKI, to come and sit and talk with us about what's happening in Lansing, and we want to hear his heart. So I am so glad that he is trusting us with this particular segment and this information. So I would like to introduce to you our Chief Protector, Chief Mike YANKOWSKI. How you doing, sir?
I'm excellent, Angie. Thank you for allowing me to come here today.
Absolutely, no problem at all. And thank you for taking time out of your busy day, because I know that it is busy. And so we're just going to get right to the conversation, okay, and right to the heart matter of what's happening, and then we want to hear your heart as well. Okay?
Absolutely. Yeah.
About a year or so ago, December 9th, I do believe, or somewhere around there, 2014, there was a town hall meeting, and it was at Union Missionary Baptist Church, and it came on the heels of the Ferguson situation, the outcry and the upheaval of that. And I remember you speaking, and I remember you saying, we as the city of Lansing, we're going to implement some things, and we are committed to doing that. So from that date, can you share with me what you've implemented into your department?
Yeah, again, thank you again for giving me this opportunity to discuss these issues with our community. When we talk about community policing, it starts and ends with our community. The word itself, community policing, it takes an entire community to police itself. And I've been just absolutely humbled and honored to be the chief of police for this great city. But know and understand that the men and women of the Lansing Police Department truly have a passion for providing the best police service that they can for their community. Okay. So when we had the event in December, it's just another opportunity for the police department to explain what our job is, our role in the community, and to also, I think, engage the community to say, hey, we all play a role in policing our community. Mm-hmm. First and foremost, we always have to recognize that the citizens of Lansing have a voice, mm-hmm. and that they have the opportunity to express their concerns, to express their opinions, and provide input on how they would like to see policing being done in the city of Lansing. Okay. And I think that that's important for law enforcement, to take a step back and to listen. Okay. And to listen to the voices of the young, mm-hmm. listen to the voices of the elderly, and listen to the voices of all citizens that play a role in keeping the community safe. Okay. Okay. So when we had the opportunity to sit down with the community, we expressed that the challenges of law enforcement are there, and that it is a difficult job, mm-hmm. but yet the role that law enforcement plays day to day is key. It is. And when you talk about, as a citizen, you would think that most people want to know what their crime stats are in their neighborhood. They want to know what's going on with the quality of life issues in the neighborhood. But honestly, first and foremost of all this is they want to be able to trust their police department. They want to have a relationship with the police department that they know when they pick up that phone or they wave to that officer on the side of the street, that they're going to be treated with dignity and respect. Okay. Mm-hmm. And no matter what happens at the end of an incident, a lot of times law enforcement gets called in the worst of situations. Mm-hmm. And our first encounter might be with someone when they're in a very stressful situation. But the majority of what we do on a day-to-day is not enforcement related. It's about solving problems. It's about communicating to our public day in and day out, how we can assist them in keeping their family safe and keeping their property safe. But they want to be treated with dignity and respect. They want to know that there's a voice there. And so the foundation for the Lansing Police Department starts and ends with police legitimacy, and community policing is the other aspect of that. So as of the results of that December 9th meeting that we had, one of many community forums that we've been a part of since then, is that we really wanted to let the public know that we want to be part of the solution, and that we're here to work with our public, with our citizens, with our business communities, with our schools, with our youth, and that how can we build on those relationships? How can we strengthen those relationships? And also recognize that there's some healing that needs to be done. That through the years, if you look historically at law enforcement, some of the tasks and duties that law enforcement has been put into, you know, certainly some families, some individuals have had negative encounters with law enforcement, and law enforcement has been asked to enforce some of those political issues through the years. That it's painful for people to really move on from those dark days.
Okay. The one media image that is throughout the nation, and there's the outcry of the either excessive to deadly force of law enforcement and minority, in particular African American male, and now it seems to be male, youth, and females. And so how has that impacted your department? You know, I would imagine that seeing this and hearing this on a daily basis, you know, even though you may have some situations under control within our own city, but seeing fellow blue men and women from other cities and other states, and that outcry is there, how does that impact your department?
Well, you know, it's a challenge to be a police officer in America in 2015. Police officers are asked to, you know, keep its community safe, respect the rights of all their citizens, and on top of that, with all the social and economic issues that come into play in our communities, it's a little bit of an extra challenge. Certainly, you also get into the domestic terrorism, the homeland security issues, that law enforcement is also on the forefront. But people need to know and understand that majority of police officers, day in and day out, have a passion for the job to do the right thing at the right time for the right reason. And that the millions of contacts that law enforcement has with citizens each and every day, the amount that actually is less than 1% that you'll see in enforcement or a use of force or even a deadly encounter situation. You know, just the other day, right here in the Metro Lansing area, you might have even seen it on TV where police officers were encountering an individual that was saying, "Shoot me, shoot me, shoot me." But yet the restraint that was used by those police officers to not use deadly force in someone that was in crisis is just one example of the professional policing that goes on day in and day out in the city of Lansing. Now, are there encounters that use of force is needed? That unfortunately gunfire or deadly force is used? Yes, there is. But I think that the number of incidents that come to that level are low. And we are always trying to follow best practices, lessons learned. How can we train, educate our officers so we eliminate those type of encounters as much as possible? But for a police officer, you said it best too, is that a police officer, it's not about race or gender or ethnicity. It's a police officer is blue, if you will. And that no matter if our police officer is African American, Hispanic, white, or Asian, you know, they're still a police officer, and we try and train them to be professional police officers, to have integrity, trust, legitimacy, character, and we want them to go out there and display that. And being a police officer in 2015 can be challenging, but I still say it's the most noble profession, and that when an officer does step out of line, that we have policies, procedures, we have laws And we're not afraid to hold our own officers accountable, and we have done that, and we have demonstrated that through time and time, that some of our police officers lose the privilege of being a police officer. And we're not afraid to hold them accountable when they need to be held accountable. But we're also need to recognize the heroic efforts of our police officers when they do just courageous and bravery day in and day out. But it's a difficult job. I think that most police officers, you know, they want the support of the community. And the great thing about the city of Lansing is that we have tremendous support from our community. Can we do a better job on certain incidents? Yep. I think every day we can take a step back and learn from our mistakes more than from our successes. And we're not afraid to say that, hey, we messed up, we'll be held accountable, and we'll do better next job.
I think you said something that probably will just resonate with everyone, because there's this idea that you are not held accountable. There's this idea that it is a one-sided situation, and that that you're going to win each and every time, you know, when there's an investigation. And just recently there are some cases where the police officers have been held accountable. But probably the main thought flow of just everyday people is that, oh, nothing's going to happen. So, you know, thank you for sharing that you will uphold, you know, righteousness and truth within your own department. Look, you're still with the Connection TV show with Angela, and we're with the Chief of Police, Mike YANKOWSKI of the City of Lansing, who's sharing some vital information. As a matter of fact, he's pretty much sharing his heart. So we're going to segue back to some questions, and I'm thinking, being the Chief of Police, what tugs at your heart the most?
You know, we really try and focus on community policing, the successes that we've had day in and day out. So when we interact with our youth, when we come across a victim of a crime, no one wants to see their family member be a victim of a crime. And sometimes if you got your house broken into, sometimes it's not about the property that was taken. It's just that the fact that you have been violated, that your house has been broken into, that someone is into your property, can affect you more than the property being lost. And so when we can have those positive interactions with our community, that is what I love about my job. You know, just a couple weeks ago, myself and another officer went to Shabazz Academy, and we talked to some of the kids there in the first grade class. And the reason why we were there is because the kids in the first grade class had sent our police officers thank you notes for you know, the job that they do for keeping their families and neighborhoods safe. And so we took that opportunity to visit these kids and to interact with these kids. We brought them some T-shirts and some stickers and tattoos. But to interact with our youth in that type of atmosphere and a non-confrontational, and to listen to how the kids viewed police officers and how we could educate the kids on what police officers do each and every day, those are the moments that I enjoy the most. The ones that I can have positive interactions. When you can come up to a victim of a car accident, and you know, it might be an elderly lady who has just went to the store and she has groceries, and you know, we find a way to get all those groceries back to her house and help her unpack those things. I mean, police officers do so many of those things day in and day out, and that's what people don't see all the time. And you know, we focus too much on the force or the enforcement side of the house, but police officers are here to solve problems, and we're here to help our community. And you know, those are the times that I enjoy my job the most. And I still go out there and try and answer calls for service, because that's what I enjoy, helping people.
Something, as many comes to mind, and I know we only have a certain amount in this segment, is gun control, and especially gun control within the hands of our youth, in the hands of our kids. The situation that happened a week or so ago within our city at one of the area high schools. So my question to you, Chief, is do you have any suggestions or some ideas where we can get a handle on this gun control and get these guns, out of the streets or out of the hands of our kids and youth? Are there some ways that maybe even your department has implemented something or some type of a process that lessens that chance of more guns on the streets?
Angela, it's a great question, because it's been something that we've been struggling in law enforcement for well over 30 years now. Is that there's just too much gun violence with our youth. And when you come across kids that are 10, 11, 12 years old that are picking up handguns to settle disputes, or their brothers and their parents or their guardians are introducing them to handguns at such a young age, that's the only way you can protect yourself. And then you listen to some of the stories that in some communities that the parents are arming their children because they want to make sure they get home from school safe and sound. And that's just not the direction any community should be going. So we've really reinvested. When I took over as chief in 2013, one of the first things that went with the economic downturn, and this has been going on for 10 years, and it started with the federal government, where they take away the resources, the financial resources for crime prevention programs and community policing. We used to have officer friendlies, we used to have DARE officers. So we've kind of taken that concept with a program called GREAT. And GREAT stands for Gang Resistance and Education and Training. We've actually trained 8 of our police officers and one of our police commissioners that they'll go in and have conversations and teach a curriculum in our schools, anywhere from 4th to 8th grade. We teach them about making good decisions. We teach them to avoid violence to settle their disputes. We try and engage them ahead of the negativity and be proactive so that they can have the tools to be successful in school. So the GREAT program, again, is police officers trying to build that relationship with our youth so they're not turning to gun violence. And certainly that's been a huge success for us. When we have already had some numbers back in previous years where we saw a 17% decrease in juvenile crime.
Good.
We've also partnered with My Lansing, or My Brother's Keeper. And I've actually been put in charge of one of the pillars, and the pillar that I'm in charge of is reducing violence and giving our youth a second chance. And so we're devoting a lot of our resources right now as how can we bring our youth along, and how can we provide them the resources, how can we provide them mentorships. And so we're really focusing a lot of our energy and time and spending time with our youth. This summer alone, with our GREAT program and some of our other police programs, we held over 30 events in the city that dealt with whether it was sports, whether it was
30, that's quite a bit.
Riding bicycles on the Riverwalk, engaging them in anti-bullying seminars. Yes, every single week we were doing something with our youth, and we're actually, part of our proposal moving into 2016 is expanding that with some other youth-initiated programs. We would love, we're trying to work on a program right now called the Youth Leadership Academy, where we take our youth and we expose them to the elements of not only police work, but also maybe they want to be a firefighter, the public safety side of the house. And it teaches them great values. We were very active in some of the sporting activities. Mid-Michigan football youth program for this last couple of years, we've been putting police officers, our GREAT program, and trying to engage our youth through sports. And there's a few other things that we got planned here in 2016, but My Brother's Keeper, where Lansing Police Department is heavily involved, we want to engage our young kids, specifically our minority kids, to tell them and to teach them there is hope. And when I mention the word hope, that is on the foundation of our Hope and Promise Scholarship, where we partner with the community to provide scholarships for our youth. And the ability to have that education component all the research will tell you that the more education you can get, the better situated you're going to be as you come out of high school. So whether it's through sports, whether it's through academics, the Lansing Police Department is committed to making sure that our youth is successful.
Okay, awesome. See, this is information. That is why we asked the chief of police to come and speak with us, because there's always information that we don't know. And we can be inundated with all the mass media, I want to say opinions or thoughts. But sometimes, as you know, my grandmother says and my mother, get it straight from the horse's mouth. So thank you so much again for being with us. And you're still here with the Connection TV show with Angela and Chief Mike Yankowski of the City of Lansing Police Department. And I just always like to, stay on track. And this is something that's extremely sensitive, and I understand that it is. And of course, I ask it with the utmost respect. In what ways are you handling, and if this is something that's even a tinge within your department, systematic racism? Because there is that outcry too that racism exists within departments and foundations. And so again, I understand it's very sensitive. However, there are those who speak within the conversations about it. So how are you handling that to the point whereas if you see it, you just it's something that you just squash out, so to speak, or is something that is handled right then and there, maybe sensitivity training, diversity, I'm not sure. But could you answer that?
Yeah, no, I think the first aspect of it is that we can't be afraid to talk about these issues. And, we recognize that the race relations in this country, especially as it's related to policing in America, is a topic that we have to sit down and have these conversations. And a little bit earlier, we talked about the long history of policing in this country and how, police officers were used to take enforcement action during segregation of our schools. Now it's about immigration, right? And some of the things that have happened over the years where law enforcement through civil riots where police officers had police dogs and water cannons, and we've learned about how you should be handling these type of situations. We've learned from our mistakes. And I think you have to really have that conversation and understand that there is some healing that needs to be done. I started in policing in 1994, and I can tell you in my 21 years now in law enforcement, it has changed drastically for the better. Do we have more work to do? Absolutely. So some of the things that we do at the Lansing Police Department, we've already engaged our community in community forums where we've sat down and we've had these kind of conversations. We had a training this summer where we brought in police officers and our youth and community members, and we had healthy dialogue. It was a workshop that called Everybody Matters. And we talked about our race relations, and we talked about what is it like to be in the shoes of a Lansing police officer, and how that we cannot be in the shoes of a lot of our citizens, but our citizens can never walk in the shoes of a Lansing police officer. So one of the things that we brought back was the Citizen Police Academy. And so hot off the press, we've had one, we're going to be starting another one here in January, that we engage our community to say, come on in for about 11 weeks.
Oh, wow.
It's a 3-hour session, one day a week, and you learn about everything that we do as a Lansing police officer. And so our first Citizen Police Academy was a huge success. We asked our youth and members from the community, our community stakeholders, to come in and learn about the Lansing Police Department, because you're going to learn a lot of things that we're trying to express here today. We've also had a heavy dose of what we call diversity training, but also procedural justice training. So we are actually teaming up with some of the experts around the country to bring in specific training to the Lansing Police Department. One of those is called procedural justice. And this is based upon Tom Tyler and Tracy Mears from Yale University. The second training that we're bringing in is called implicit bias, fair and impartial policing training.
Okay.
So it talks about how every human being has implicit biases and how we cannot allow stereotypes to influence the decisions that we make, and that unconscious bias that everyone has, and people have it about police officers too. You know, just because you see something happen in South Carolina that most police officers, every police officer would say was wrong, and that officer should be held accountable for them. But don't hold that against all the police officers in this country.
Okay.
We have our 1% in our profession, just like every other profession has their 1%. But we are given a tremendous amount of responsibility and authority to protect our community, and we get that from our community. You know, Sir Robert Peel once said that the public are the police and the police are the public. We get our authority from our citizens. And when we lose that trust, the damage that it does to moving forward to have positive relations is key to us keeping that trust.
Wow.
So we are constantly looking to train our officers, to educate our officers. And I also say that we, for the last 14 years, we're one of a few police agencies in this country that actually track all their traffic data. And we send that data on traffic stops. We get the date and the time. We get the reason for the stop, whether someone was arrested, the race, gender, ethnicity, all gets calculated and sent out to Michigan State University, a third-party vendor, and they do an analysis of that to see if there's any biased policing going on at the Lansing Police Department. And I'm proud to announce for the last 14 years that the researchers have found that the data is indicating that there is no biased policing, no problem policing going on with the Lansing Police Department. However, that doesn't mean that we are not constantly trying to improve our product. And I will say this as you started out, let me be clear that myself and the Lansing Police Department, we don't tolerate racial profiling. We do not tolerate racism amongst any of our officers in the organization. And if that is brought to our attention, that would be firmly investigated. And that if it's found that it is occurring in our organization, that we will take the necessary action swiftly and with due process. But you know, we understand that's the great thing about the city of Lansing. There's a diversity that is here, that our officers have to be educated on the cultures, the diversity, and it's not always about race and gender. Sometimes it's about the classes, right? And if you grew up in a community that had this and another community didn't have that, now as police officers we are thrown into that melting pot and trying to resolve those situations to the best of our ability. And education and training and experience and character is where it all starts.
Oh, wow. You have heard it from our Chief Protector, Chief Mike YANKOWSKI, about the Lansing Police Department, what they're doing to handle concerns on a national level as well as on the community level, bettering relationships with our community, as well as taking the position of being a police officer and a protector of the community very seriously. So I'm hoping that you did learn some information, and I'm hoping that this helps with the formation of what we're thinking about our own law officers within our respective communities, cities, and states. Thank you, Chief.
Welcome,
you are
Angela.
so
My
gracious,
pleasure.
and thank you for trusting us to be, you know, we're transparent, but yet not biased, and allowing you to share your heart and the information about your department. We truly appreciate it. We appreciate you. Get to know your policeman, the chief of police in your own city and or state. When does that next session starts with the Citizens Academy?
Yep, January 28th we'll be making an official announcement here real soon.
Okay.
And we're also going to have some community forums here in 2016. So
Okay.
definitely stay engaged with our social media. All
Okay.
the information will be there for you.
Okay, and we will stay connected to you so that we can help to get the information out about when discussions are taking place, community forums with the police, so that, you know, those positive relationships amongst our citizens can continue. You are with the Connection TV show. This has been quite informative, very transparent and heartfelt. Again, This is Angela. Real Thoughts, Real Talk. You have a great day bundled up because you know that weather is coming for you.